All right, welcome back. Office of the President. All right, so we have the Vice President first. Vice President is selected to balance the ticket. So that's talking about when the President isn't actually President yet, when he's running for President, and he announces his running mate. That's his Vice Presidential candidate. Usually a President picks somebody a little bit different than them, so that it gives voters maybe who don't like him exactly or her exactly something else that could draw them towards him. So like Obama, he was lacking experience, he was young, so he gets Joe Biden, who was in the Senate for about 30 years, so he gets somebody who is very experienced. John McCain was old and very experienced, but he wasn't the most charismatic person around, so he got Sarah Palin, who was very conservative and drew people towards her. So it's not that you pick somebody that's exactly like you, rather you pick somebody that might help you win by balancing the ticket. The only official job that the Vice President has constitutionally is that they are President of the Senate, and that only matters at one specific time, which is to cast tie-breaking votes. So if there is a 50-50 tie in the Senate, then the Vice President gets to come in and he gets to vote. Otherwise, there is no specific job for him or her to do. Therefore, the Vice President has as much or as little power as the President gives him. So Dick Cheney was a very powerful Vice President, especially in Bush's first term. Other Vice Presidents have been very marginalized. John Adams famously called it the most useless office ever created by man. So they don't have almost any power at all. Unless the President gives them power, then they can be quite important and influential. All right, the President also has a cabinet. These are the heads of the 15 major executive departments. So we have these executive departments: Department of Defense, Department of State, Department of Treasury, Department of Justice, Agriculture, the Interior, all these different ones, Education, Energy. So we have 15 of them. How do they get their jobs? So these are political appointees. So the President nominates, and then the Senate confirms them. All right, so President nominates, Senate confirms. So again, that creates tension. He has to nominate somebody that Congress or the Senate specifically would be willing to go along with. Once they have the job, they can either resign or the President can fire them. So they can be removed by the President anytime. The official saying is that they serve at the pleasure of the President, which means if he thinks that they are doing a poor job, he can fire them. And with the current administration, we have seen a couple agency heads or department heads get fired already. There you go. If you're Gandalf, why are you white? Okay, so there you go. Little Lord of the Rings and Mean Girls, two of the best things on earth humor for you. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Maybe you hated it. Now you hate me because you don't like Lord of the Rings or Mean Girls, but that means you're missing out on the great things in life. What can I say? All right, Executive Office of the President. These are heads of agencies that report to the President, like the CIA, like the Office of Management and Budget, which we're going to talk about later. You don't know what they are yet. They help the President with the budget, obviously by their name. They also require Senate confirmation, so the President nominates and the Senate confirms. So you have the difference there being you have department heads, and these are agency heads. So they're not part of the cabinet, but the heads of these agencies do report directly to the President as well. Then finally you have the White House staff. These are the President's closest assistants and aides. They actually physically work in the White House. The cabinet doesn't. They have their own building. So there's a building for the Secretary of State. There is a Justice Department building. So they don't work in the White House. That matters because proximity is important. These are people who work directly in the White House. So they have access to the President. They are chosen. Well, first of all, you see, they don't require Senate confirmation. So here the President can choose anybody they want, even if Senate would never approve them. So this includes people like the Chief of Staff, like his press secretary, like his top domestic and foreign policy advisors. They are personally loyal to the President. These are people that he's often worked with in the past, people who helped him run his campaign, people who may have helped him in previous positions that he held when he was a senator or in state government. The President relies much more on his White House staff than he does on his cabinet or executive office in recent years. All right, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button. This has been a La Money production.